Hi everyone, welcome back for another UE4 tutorial. This episode was voted on by my Patreon, so a big thank you to everyone who voted and showing your support. This video is all about saving and loading, how to create save files, how to load from those files, and using various variables to do so. So the way I'm going to approach this video is do a series of videos actually, is start off with this basic how to save and how to load, and some thoughts behind it. And then what I think I'll do is do separate videos for individual use cases, so things that particularly people have asked me for, such as like saving in inventory system, for example. So we're going to showcase the basics in this video, and then go into more specific ones in separate videos. So the whole save and loading system in UE4 is actually really simple. It all handles on one object that we have to create, and it's our manipulation of that object which we have to work around. Now, it should go without saying that you need to make sure you're planning well ahead when you're creating a game. This in particular comes even more into light when you start working with saving and loading systems. You need to make a list of all the certain things you want to save and load. Makes it a lot easier going forwards than it is to go back and try and fix things. So before you get started, try and make a list of the big things that you need to save and load. Okay. So for this video, I'm actually just going to show you how to do a single variable, and then we'll go into how we can do multiple variables as well. So prior to filming this, I set up an XP system for my player character here. So I've got a little XP bar in the top right hand corner there, and if I hit the X key, it increases. Okay, but if I push play, you can see it doesn't save. So that's what we're going to try and do, make it so it stores and saves that experience bar value. So it's a very basic example. Okay, so the purpose of this video is just to teach you the fundamentals of how to save and loading, but then you'll have to tweak it and learn from this to use it for your own use cases. So the way saving and loading works is that you create a single object, and that object is a save game object. So I'm going to go add new blueprint class, and if you haven't got this all classes expanded, just expand open and search for save game. Choose that from the list and click select, and you want to name this one what you want to call it. So I'm going to call mine save game object, and this save game object is what is actually saved to a save file. It's not various actors or their various values. It is only this object. So the difficulty that you have to manage when making a game is the transference of variable data over to this save game object. So before I get cracking on that, I'm actually going to show you how we actually create a save game file. So this object handles the data, and that is stored to the file. So the file is created quite easily with a single node. However, we want to be able to create this and have a reference of it throughout the whole entire game. Now, we can't put it on a game mode because game modes could change based on what level we're in. In fact, there's only one real object that goes across and is persistent across all levels and all modes, and that is the game instance. So we're going to create our own custom game instance, and we do that by right clicking again and choose blueprint class, and again in your search box you want to search for game instance, and you want the basic game instance, and you're going to call it my game instance. Now, a game instance is the very first thing that's loaded up. It is the thing that initiates the whole entire game. And what we're going to do in here is open it up, and we are going to set up our save file. So we want to set up the save file as soon as the game is loaded, in this case anyway. So on my init event, stands for initialization, so as soon as the game is ran, I want to be able to store or create a save game file. And if there is one already existing, I want to be able to load from that save file. So to do that, we need to first of all check whether or not a save game file exists. So if you just search for a save, and you'll see does save game exist come up. Choose this and plug it in. So our save game exist node requires two inputs, has a slot name and a user index. So the integer index we can leave at 0. That's fine. We don't really need to do much to that. The slot name, however, is the name of basically the file name. Okay, so we have to check for this file name. So you could just type it in here. However, I prefer it to have a variable. This allows me to change things on the fly if I need to, or add multiple save game slots and check for them, and so on and so forth. So it makes it a bit easier. So I'm just going to do save slot name, and you can change it to a string and click compile. And when we click compile, we can set a new default value for a save slot name, and here I'm going to call it save data. Okay, drag your save slot name onto your slot name input, and that's now going to check for a file inside its saved game folder named after this save slot name, and that will spit out true or false, which we can put into a branch like so. So if it's true, it does exist, we want to load data from it. If it's false, we want to create data. Let's start off with creating data. So drag down from false and type in save again, and you'll see create save game object. Choose that node, and here you can choose a class that you want your save game to follow. So you want to choose your save game object that you made. This will get you a return value. The return value we want to store because we need to keep referencing our save game object throughout the whole entire game experience, because we need to be able to write data to it whilst the game is running. So we need to drag out from return value and click promote to variable. And I'm going to name this one save game data. And that'll do there. The next thing we need to do is do this true branch. So the false creates the save game object and stores it. The true is going to load the save data. So from true, we're going to drag out and call load game from slot. There we go. And here we required a slot name, and we know it exists because we've just used it here. We can just drag in our variable and hook it up. And if the load games from slot is triggered, it will return a save game object reference. Now I can set it to my previous one. However, you can see I can't connect it. That's because this is a generic save game return value. We need to give it a specific save game data reference, because this save game is our personal one we just made. So we need something in between this. We need to cast it first of all. So choose cast to save game object, and then hook it up like so. And that is all you need to do to set up the save file. So we're checking whether or not it exists. If it does exist, we're loading it, casting it, and checking that it is a save game object and storing it as a reference in save game data. If the save file doesn't exist, we're going to create the save game data file and set it as our save game data. Click compile, and we are now done. So that's the game instance. Now we need to tell the game to actually use this instance instead of the default one. And we do that inside the edit project settings. And the easiest way of doing it is to search in details at the top and type in instance. You'll see game instance class right there at the top. You can choose my game instance and just close this window. So now this game is using my game instance. Notice the game still runs just as it normally would. It's just using a different instance to initialize the game. But now we have a save game file. So how do we actually save data to it? Well, our save game object needs some variables to store data to. So we could quite simply just put in a plus variable here and call it XP. And my XP is done as a float. So if I type in float and click compile, my XP on my player is a float. If I show you, it's there. See, XP bar is a float. I want to make sure that it is exactly the same type in my save game object as well. So let's actually save data to it. So when I push the button on my third person character, I wanted to actually save that data to that save file. That save file exists in a reference form on the game instance. So what I want to do is get a reference to the game instance. Now here on my begin play, I've just got my heads up display showing the XP bar. After that, I'm going to get my game instance and store it as a reference. So type in get game instance, and you want to cast that to my game instance, and you want to store that as a reference by promoting it to variable, and I call it the game instance. Now the reason why I'm doing it on begin play is because cast can be quite expensive to do in CPU time. So what I'm going to do is I typically do it once. I only need to do it once, so I'll do it on my begin play and get a reference to the specific game instance being run. Now I've got that, I can drag my game instance variable out and choose get, and then from there I can get my save game data. And with my save game data, I can now set the XP of that value with my XP bar. So when I'm pushing the button, it's increasing the XP, but then I'm storing it inside my save game reference. Okay. If I click compile, then we need to actually save the game. So what we can do is if we just type in save game to slot, you've got options here to choose the save game object, which is this one here, and the slot name, which is on the game instance, slot name, over to there, and click compile, and this just saves the game. Now if I push play, my XP increases and it's now saving it to the game. I shouldn't get any errors. However, when we push play again, we'll see it hasn't loaded up. That's because we're only saving the data to file, we haven't read from the file to let the load. So what we need to do is accomplish that is go into our third person character, and on begin play we're going to set the XP bar to set the XP bar to a value stored inside that save game data. So in the game instance, you should have a reference now to the save game data. In there, you can get the XP and hook it up like so. Go back to the game, push play, and you can see it has now stored that save data from the file. If I increase it by another 2, exit, push play, you can see it's saved that data. So what we've seen there is basically how it works. However, it isn't perfect because it's kind of messy, really. The save game object has only got a variable on it, and the third person character is doing all the work. It's got all this stuff. Imagine doing this for every single bit of data the player could have. Okay, so it can be quite long. So what we want to do is set up some functions to make this a lot easier and a lot neater. So to make it a lot neater, we're going to go into our game instance. And our game instance, we're going to add some function in here which allow us to save and load the player data a lot easier. So I'm going to create a new function by on the functions list on the left hand side, click new, and I'm going to call this one save player data. And when we click the save player data function, we want to just go through the motions of what we had in our third person blueprint. So in here we're going to get player character, and we're going to cast that to the third person character, and the third person character is then going to give us all their data, so we can get their XP, for example. Okay, so what we need to do now is get our save game data. So drag it out from your reference list on the variables, and we will need to set XP and I'm just going to promote it to a local variable for now and store this as player ref. And so with that reference I can now access its XP bar that's on the player character and then store it in the XP variable inside the save game data. So when I'm saving, it handles all that for me. Okay. So once I save player data, I want to load player data as well. Load player data. And much like the same we did, we need to get the save game data here. Get XP. And we need to store this on the player. So we need to get player character. Cast it to the third person character. And then from there, I'm going to promote it to a local variable again. Player ref. Oh. And set the player's XP. Like so. The reason why I'm setting the player reference is because it saves a lot of lines being dragged all over the place from the blueprint. So if you've got a player reference, you can just drop that in whenever you want to get a variable of the player or set it, for example. So click compile, and that will do for loading and saving the player data. And then on the player itself, we're going to change what's going on here. So here on the loading event begin play, I've got my game instance being made and storing the game instance there. Rather than doing these three nodes, I can just drag from here and type in load player data. Okay, and likewise on the X key here, rather than doing all this malarkey, I can just get the game instance and choose save player data, like so. And I've just remembered, I've forgotten one thing we've got to do on a save player data. So I'm going to click compile on that. I'm going to double click on my save player data. I forgot to actually save it. So here we're setting the save game data, and here I just want to type in save game to slot. So we choose the save game data and the slot name there. Okay, and that will do there. Click play now, and you'll see it still loads up, still fine. Allows us to increase it, escape, and reload up again. But it's a lot neater now because we've got all that data, all that hard work being done by the game instance rather than the player character. So it keeps it nice and clean. But what else can we do with this? Well, what if we want to clear the save data? On the save data on a game instance, we're going to create another function called clear save data, and that's quite as simple as doing clear save data as a function. Alright, that's not it. Save. Where is it? Delete. So delete game in slot. There we go. And this will delete the save file that you want named. Click compile, and we now just set up a key for this. So I'm just going to go on my player character, and I'm going to do C key. So when it's pressed, I'm just going to call that clear data, clear save data. Click compile. So now when I push play, if I push the C key and exit, I push play, You see it's cleared that saved data completely. It's deleted the slot, which allows me to redo the demonstration again. So that's the clearing saved data. What if then you want to say autosave? So what I can do on that front is on the game instance, I'm going to click on functions and click new function and type in autosave, and I want my autosave function to be on a loop. So if I go to my event graph on initialization, I want my game to do it on a loop. So here I'm going to go and set timer by function name, and the object itself is going to be itself, so you can just type in self. Function name is what we just made, so it's autosave. Time, I want it to save every 5 seconds, and I want it to loop. Okay, I may want to do a timer autosave. You may want to do other things as well, like checkpoints, for example. You make a saving checkpoint, much the same as this, just without a timer. So in the autosave function here, we can do save player data, like so, and click compile. So if well, there's no way to really test that because we are moving around and hitting it, but it's saving it anyway. What we can do then instead is also show you how to save more variables other than just one, which we've got. So on my save game object, I've got XP, but what I want to store, say, the X and Y and Z location of the player character. So here I could just add another another variable here called vector, a vector type, but I'm actually going to do something a bit more clever. And instead, what I'm going to do is create a struct. So if I right click and create a structure in blueprints, structure, and I can call this one player save data, and here I want to store all the variables that I'm going to store about the player. So this could be location. Oh, hello. Location, which is a vector, and I may also want the XP. In fact, I do want the XP, which is going to be a float. And a structure is just a collection of variables. On my save game object, rather than use the XP here, I'm going to delete this, and I'm going to add player data, and I want to use that structure as a variable type, player save data. Click compile, and there you go. So close this, go back into my game instance, and let's have a look at our save and load player data again. So click on save player data. So rather than doing this, because this doesn't exist anymore, we need to do something a bit different. So let's delete that, and move this along. I want my save game data, and I want to set the player data, but here I can right click on the player data and split it, and here I can put in the player data XP, and I can also get the get actor location for the player data location. That can go into the save slot there, and there you go, that's it. Click compile, and that's because I haven't done the load data. Hang on, load data. So let's do that again for the load data. So from a save game data reference, I'm going to get the player data structure, split it, and the player reference, we're going to set the location, so add to location to this, and with the player reference again, set XP, like so. Click compile, and that should be okay. Oh, so by default player data is set at 000, therefore I'm stuck in the floor because 000 for this world is in the floor. So let's just get the default value for this. So if I click on my start location here, my default location is minus 750, 390 and 226 roughly. So if I just go into my save game object, and my default location is going to be, oh, let's do this a bit better. There we go. So location is minus 750. It's a default starting location. 390 in the Y and 226 roughly in the Z. Click compile, play, and so I'll start in the correct location now. Autosave is carrying on in the background, so every 5 seconds it should be saving my player's location and XP. So that should be 5 seconds by now. Let's get escape, push play, and there you go. Okay. And there you go, there's the basics of saving and loading. Now, as I said, I'll probably do specific use cases as separate videos. So if you have any specific queries about saving and loading that you want to see, let us know in the comments below, and I'll see if I can make a video of them. Thank you to everyone that's been supporting me thus far on Patreon and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. It's been a big help knowing that I've got you guys got my back. It means the world to me. Thank you very much once again. If you want to support me and get access to videos nice and early, head over to patreon.com/Ryan Laley. And thank you very much again to everyone who supported me, and I'll see you guys next time for the next video. Bye bye.